Hello and welcome to the Marketing Mix. I'm here today with Paul Tyre and we're going to talk a little bit about small business marketing challenges. Now, if you find yourself lurching from one marketing disaster to another, or you don't know what's best for you, or you're struggling, to find something to do that you feel comfortable with, you're in the right place today because Paul has experienced a few marketing challenges of his own, which he's going to talk about, but Paul and I talked about his difficulties with using some marketing tools, and he found a way to make things work for him. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You do need to find a way with marketing that you feel comfortable with. It's always tempting to, jump onto the newest thing, or every marketing expert, whether they're a LinkedIn expert, a video expert, an SEO expert, they'll tell you to try the thing that you're an expert in. And sometimes you just need to find your own way and look at the things that you're comfortable doing. So what I'm going to ask Paul to do first is to introduce himself and to introduce his business.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Minal. It's appreciated. I'm Paul Tyre. I'm a professional model maker and I'm based in Orkney, which is obviously a little bit more challenging than on the mainland. There's only 6 miles of water between us, but that just does add a challenge. I've been manufacturing model kits and accessories since 2012. And I've basically focused now all on the model ship side of things because I do a lot of commission work, so large ships for display purposes, that sort of thing. But I knew I was struggling with marketing, and that's when Min and I started talking and planning out how to move forward.
So, I mean, you started your business, you got into what you're doing because of the actual things that you do, not because you wanted to do marketing. That's why I started my business. But tell me a bit about how you felt when you first realized, oh, I've actually got to learn how to do some marketing.
Basically, I suppose a lot of it was I knew that the marketing areas were changing and continually changing, and I was struggling to sort of keep up with that. If you gave me a set of plans, I can build you a model because I know the stages to go through.
Yeah.
But the marketing side of it was like trying to climb a mountain. It just, to me, seemed a big challenge. And that's when I really felt that I needed some guidance to actually take it in manageable steps.
And so when you sort of started looking at marketing, what did you think you had to do?
I don't know really, because I think the real challenge I had was I was doing some advertising in magazines, I was doing some email, I was doing some social media, and I just didn't appear to be getting the feedback that I was hoping I would get. And I know the algorithms in social media change all the time, and that sort of was another challenge. So when I spoke to yourself, we looked at a number of challenges and trying to hone them down, really to give me the building blocks to move forward. And the email marketing was the section that we honed in on, and took it from there, really.
So how did you feel when you thought, oh, I've got to figure all this out? What did you think you're going to have to do to figure it out?
Well, because I'm on a remote location, obviously I don't have access to the same people as yourself on the mainland. So whilst you tried to sort of search around to find the information, you felt you were on your own to a degree, and it seemed probably in the way of saying it was just a struggle to try and keep up. And to be perfectly honest, like a number of well-known entrepreneurs, there are a number of them that suffer with dyslexia like I do, which adds an additional complication because you can read something, but not necessarily take it in the manner it's meant to be used in. And again, that was another challenge. And of course, that becomes then frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you're not understanding necessarily how they are advising you. And that's why working with you on a one-to-one sort of basis has made a lot more common sense of a lot of the challenges, because I can now sort of go, how do we do this? And we can talk it through. And I go, oh, it's that simple. Which
so just what's the most effective way for you to learn?
I tend to like visual communication, because theoretical learning I struggle with, because of reading it, because of the word blindness I get. If I write something down, it might take an hour or two for me to write something correctly because of the challenges. But to talk to you or to talk to someone else makes it so much easier, because I can actually sort of say what I'm thinking, and it tends to flow much more naturally. Which is like, we explored the likes of dictation software and video software, etc., to do the email marketing.
And I just that sort of takes me back to my other life. When I started my marketing career in a business that sold technology to education. So there was a lot of learning that we did around how children learn, and I suppose that stays with you throughout your life, because I've always been, for me, it's always been easiest to read something and digest it and then reread it, and like that's how I get my understanding. We were just talking before we went live that I should do more video, but I prefer reading, but not everyone does. So it's interesting that different styles of learning stay with you as you get older. And perhaps if you had realized that, or not you actually, I think perhaps if people like me have make that connection, we can make learning about running a business more accessible to everybody. So just before we you've touched a little bit on your dyslexia. Can you tell us what challenges that brought to you in terms of email marketing? Because email marketing is a sit down and write stuff, really. So what challenges did that bring for you?
There was two, really. I think the first one was confidence, because when you're writing something down, you're sort of thinking, well, have I put it in the right grammatical format? Is it spelt correctly? And the great thing with the Word documents nowadays is obviously they spell check for you. You can do your grammar, which does help. But for instance, the number 3, I cannot always tell which way it should be around. Sometimes it's the correct way, and sometimes I look at it as a letter E or vice versa, and I mix them up. So if I'm handwriting things, sometimes that's where my challenge is. And I think a lot of it goes back to when I was at school, because sort of in the 1970s, dyslexia wasn't seen to the way it is now. And I was told, you were slow, or you just needed special reading classes. And I suppose subconsciously it sits in the back of your mind. And it's only through our conversation the other day, just communicating about this meeting, that I
didn't even
started
think about that. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
No. I didn't, and I'm nearly 60, and I didn't think about it until you and I were talking the other day, that it sort of triggered something in my mind. I thought, maybe that sits on the back of your mind. Maybe that is part of what holds you back with your confidence. When it comes to writing things.
And so, because of that, had you sort of written off doing email marketing altogether?
To a degree, yeah. It's not so bad now, because now I do it in a video form, and now I do in written form as well. I feel much more comfortable about it. But before, I was like, oh, am I going to give the right message? Am I going to do this? And are people going to understand what I'm saying? And of course, that's always a negative feeling, but it's understandable if, you know, when you've got something like that negative sitting in the back of your mind. Even though I've never given it any thought, it's only just recently that I've started thinking about it.
So you just alluded to it, the video form. So let's talk about how you do your newsletters. Now, can you explain how you put together your newsletter?
Oh, yeah, I enjoy this. Basically, every Saturday morning, I come into the studio about 8 o'clock, set the video camera up, set the audio up, and I've generally taken the dog for a walk, either the night before or first thing, depending on weather. As you can imagine, a little breezy up here from time to time. So I set that up, and I've already got in my mind a number of points that I want to put across. So it might be something to do with a new product. It might be to do with a competition that we're running or something like that. So they will be our sort of main focal points. But then as a bit of a personal touch to it, quite often Teddy, my Jack Russell, enters the video somewhere along the lines as the shop inspector, because he basically oversees my work. Because he's got a basket in here, and he quite often's in the studio with me most days. So I do literally, it takes me about 20 minutes to record, probably 20 minutes, half hour to edit. So I end up with just a 2-minute video.
Yep.
So the user then gets 2 minutes of video footage. They can see me, they can see much more about what's going on. And quite often I'll have a commission build in the background so they can see different things that I'm doing. And I put in shots of like new products.
Yeah.
I'll over my talking sections, I'll put, you know, cutaways and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's all just done in a very simple program, and it's out the door by lunchtime every Saturday.
Amazing. And so what's been the reaction to you doing that? Because I think you've been doing that for maybe about a year now.
Yeah. The reaction's been very good. A lot of customers love it because they can actually see a person behind the business rather than just the standard marketing type email that some businesses send out, you know, like the big chain types businesses.
Yeah.
You know, buy this product, buy that product, buy that product. This is about me, the business, and what's going on and how we're developing. And now I've got feedback from customers on this tips and tricks section where they're bringing in how they fix a part, how they paint a model, how they build a model. That then starts to feed into more content, more how-to videos, and it also, I can talk to people through that video as well.
So people, your customers are giving you tips of how they do things, and you're turning that into video content. Like you're doing that as a tip, as a piece of video. Now, see, that's amazing, because if they're telling you that, that's a problem that they've come across and they've solved it in a way, and that's probably something that your other customers are going to appreciate knowing. And you're sort of almost turning the FAQs on its head, really, because a lot of the times I say to people, if you're struggling for content, think about the questions that you get asked most by your customers and answer those questions. And now what you're doing is taking those answers that your customers are giving you and turning that into content for other people. So that's amazing. And so how much time does that take, taking the suggestion from the customer, the tip from the customer, to turning it into a video?
It really depends, because quite often I would like to physically do a how-to video. So that could be a Saturday afternoon, because Monday to Friday are the business hours as such, but then a Saturday is my time to do email. But also I make my own model, because I'm in the middle of doing a remote control boat for myself, actually. Finally got it out the box after nearly a year of having it here. So I'm turning that into a how-to video from start to finish. So because when you've got people coming into the hobby, and if it's a model they've never done before or they're new to the hobby, you're spending £2,000 or £3,000 on a kit, plus the amount of time it takes you to build a ship, which could be 2 or 3 years, depending on their abilities. So I was thinking, if we can engage with the members and the newsletter readers, help with their advice from more advanced ones, we can develop the skills of the newer modelers. And that's why I thought if we can do how-to videos, and that's why the whole thing, because of the way you and I spoke and how to develop things, has led me on to be able to do all these extra tiers that I never even thought about at the start.
And this is amazing, because you've taken quite a simple idea, I feel, of creating your newsletter by using video, but you've taken that up a notch, and you're generating content from your customers and turning it into content to upskill beginners that are building kits. So they appreciate your help as well. Have you thought about perhaps getting those tips from your customers in video format, so you shine just a little spotlight on them as well?
It's something it's worth considering. I haven't gone down that route as yet, but I will be making a note of that afterwards. So I've said in my video, I will quite often say, "Oh, this was sent in by X, Y, and Z of wherever."
Yeah.
But what I've done as a slight incentive is I give a £15 gift voucher out to one of the customers that I pick out of that particular month's selection.
Yeah.
And I give them a voucher.
Yeah.
Just as a way of saying thanks, because it's just I just trying to be more of a community rather than just purely selling a product.
Yeah.
Because the more I can get people to engage, I think the more they will feel comfortable and want to spend.
And that's the thing, right? Is people will buy from people when they feel some kind of allegiance to them. And if you're building this community that's where you're giving information freely to help people, at the point where they've got a commission or they want to buy something a bit more expensive, they are automatically going to think of you because you've given them so much value already. But I like the £15 gift voucher, because I know that what you sell isn't particularly cheap, but it's giving them a present that then encourages them to buy something a bit more expensive from you. So that's something that anyone watching should perhaps take note of, is that you don't always have to be giving discounts, but you can give a present to a customer that encourages them to buy something a little bit more expensive. So just thinking about results, what impact do you think this approach has made on your business?
When I look at the metrics on the website, I've got Google Analytics running, and the increased traffic flow has probably gone up by about 25 to 30% coming through, of which 60% of those are desktop users, and which is totally understandable for the subject we're in, because if you're researching a model ship, you're going to look for photos of the real ship. So you're going to need to see the details. So the majority of people use desktop. As far as turnover, it's probably 5%, maybe 10%, somewhere in that margin of additional turnover through the email side of things.
Yeah.
But then that, to me, is quite a big jump, really.
Yeah. And it's actually good that you can see that it's making that material difference, because it's taking you some effort to create those videos, but you're not doing it and not seeing a result. So you're doing something in a way that is comfortable for you, but it's actually helping you to see results for your business.
I think what I found was beneficial to help me was I think you and I have discussed it in the past, is that I've been involved in a number of model making TV shows. And the one I really enjoyed the most was The Biggest Little Railway, which is where track was laid from Fort William to Inverness, and it was Dick Strawbridge there. And it took us 2 weeks to do it, but it was what the Victorians couldn't quite manage. So we wanted to do an engineering project that would take a model railway all the way through, and it did. And apparently it's been shown in Australia, and I think it's been shown in Japan. And this is 5 years after it was made. So yeah, it's got some quite a good positive feedback. And I think working around the TV crews, because where we were in small blocks doing different things, we had a TV crew with us at the time, and you got used to them being around, and I think that's where I felt comfortable using it. So,
and do you track which videos are more popular with your readers? Do you look at your metrics and think, oh, that worked really well, maybe I should do more of that?
Yeah, because I put them on YouTube, but put them as a private link, not a private video, but just a link that only the subscribers can see. And I see how many each month have been viewed, and that gives me an indication. But the model I made of the Royal Oak in 2019, that's had over 30,000 views, and it's only like a 10-minute video showing the whole build process. And that's, say, it's had a lot of views, but it's also generated a number of product inquiries and customer inquiries, for that. So it is well worth considering doing something on these lines.
And so just carrying on from that. So if someone wants to, do that and turn their newsletters into a video because that's what they feel more comfortable with, what things have you learned that you can share with people?
Try it out a few times. Just have some fun with it. It is difficult to look at the camera, and I try and look at the screen now. So obviously to look at you and to talk to you, and that is a hard thing to do. But just try 4 or 5 videos at home. Don't do them for anyone else, but just do them for yourself. Have an idea of some ballpark ideas, just write some notes down. And what I sometimes do is, if I've got 4 or 5 ideas, I'll write them down on a post-it note, stick it below the camera, so I'm actually looking at the camera, so I'm reading the notes underneath of it, which is quite useful. You don't need expensive equipment. Your iPhones and modern phones are 4K in a lot of cases, so they're very good quality. The phone I use is 5 years old, but it's still good quality. I've just got an app on it now for doing video for when I'm out and about, because I can manually control everything. I've got a digital camera, a good quality digital camera. Bought it second hand for a couple of £100, but it does 4K. It does 60 frames a second, doesn't do 120, but it's more than enough for what I do. Get yourself a decent microphone, and away you go. But if anyone wants any help, if you want to put my details in the link afterwards, Minal,
sure,
I'm more than welcome to give us a call or message us, and we'll talk them through it.
Very kind. The app that you've just mentioned that you have, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, it's an app called Filmic Pro.
Okay.
I'll drop you the details later.
Yeah. Sure.
Basically, it's a professional film app, and I think it only cost me about £10 or £11 to purchase one-off price.
Right.
But it lets you manually focus it. It lets you manually zoom. So basically, it takes over control of the phone and turns it into a professional camera, as opposed to just a mobile phone.
Amazing. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, drop me the details, and I'll put them in the comments. So, how has this approach? We talked about confidence and how you feel that maybe you didn't have the confidence, but how has this approach helped your confidence with marketing?
Oh, massively, absolutely massively. I can approach things now in a completely different way. I wouldn't have been doing this with you live prior to getting more confidence with the video newsletters, and I love it. I'm terrible. I can't stop now. So it's like this sneaky little addiction.
It does. Doing things like this does get easier the more you do it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like exercise, isn't it? The more you exercise, the sort of fitter you become, the more your muscle memory sort of remembers certain things. But it can be daunting, and practicing is really the key. But so how do you think this confidence has impacted other parts of your business? Does it help?
Yeah, it's helped personally as well, as the business, because I can have much more ability to control situations a bit better. Whereas before I was always, I don't really want to say that, or I don't really want to say. Now I can go to a situation and sort of, I wouldn't say in a controlling manner, but be able to stand my ground and focus on an area and explain it with much more confidence than I ever had before.
Amazing.
But I've also found, from a personal point of view, that because I'm chair of the local model club, I deal with a lot more challenges much more confidently than I ever did before, because of doing what I do now. So yeah, no, it's appreciated, and I can't thank you enough for sort of pointing us in the right direction.
Hey, listen, sometimes that old adage, you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
Right. And it does. I'm the same. I have a mentor, and when I'm tying myself into knots, I go and speak to him, because I know that I'm too close to things and I need an outside perspective. So it's been my pleasure. And I'm so pleased to see you going from strength to strength. I must mention, because Paul hasn't, that he's currently working on a project for a museum in Spain. So you can see what success he's having. And this is down to him, right? A marketing mentor can point you in the right direction, can, give you some food for thought, but it's only going to work if you go ahead and make that effort and put time in to do things. And that success is down to Paul, because he took that idea and he ran with it, and it's become really successful. And I'm so pleased that it's working. Thank you so much for joining me today, Paul. For anyone who's watching, if you would like to talk about mentoring, please do book 30 minutes with me, and we can have a chat about what that looks like for you. As you can tell, I don't have a cookie cutter approach. Every client comes with a challenge, and we work on those challenges and find solutions that are comfortable for them. I never push ideas onto people. So do book that 30 minutes. And if you would like to have marketing tips and more on a weekly basis, join the Marketing Morsel Club. It's a weekly newsletter that comes out on a Tuesday, but it's more of a club. There are other things that are attached to it, like member-only webinars 4 times a year. So join that club, and you'll be able to benefit from some marketing advice from me. But in the meantime, I will post a link to Paul's website in the comments when we're finished. But do go and check out his website. It's very cool. I don't think I've ever come across anything like it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Paul. And good luck with those newsletters.
Thank you.
They sound really great. All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be talking about how to write winning award entries. So join me in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.